You lying, cheating bastard. The words burned in my throat as I stared at the damning photos spread across our kitchen table. My husband Zach embracing my own sister Erin, the two people I trusted most in this world, entangled in a sordid affair. My hands shook as I flipped through image after image, each one a dagger to my heart. Zach's strong arms wrapped around Erin's slender waist, her hands caressing his face, staring into his eyes with undisguised lust. And the worst one, their lips locked in a passionate kiss, brazenly out in public without a care. I wanted to scream, to rage, to tear the photos to shreds. But I could only stand there, frozen, as the magnitude of their betrayal crashed over me in icy waves. 10 years, a decade of marriage, of love, of building a life together, did it mean nothing to him? And Erin, my baby sister, how could she do this to me? I practically raised her after Mom went back to work. She was my best friend, my confidant. I trusted her with everything. Bile rose in my throat as my mind raced, trying to process this nightmare. When did it start? All those late nights Zach was working. The weekends Erin would visit friends. God, how far back did this go? Have they been laughing at me this whole time? The naive, trusting fool? The front door slammed and I heard Zach whistling as he walked in, so carefree, so unburdened. Oblivious to the bomb about to detonate our sham of a marriage. Lana? You home, babe? He called out from the foyer. Babe. The casual endearment made me want to vomit. I opened my mouth but no sound came out, my throat choked with anguish and rage. His footsteps approached the kitchen and he sauntered in, his eyes widening as he took in my rigid stance and the photos littering the table. Lana, I can explain, he started, but I cut him off. Explain? Explain what? I hissed, my voice shaking. That you've been screwing my sister? That you two have been carrying on an affair behind my back? Zach at least had the decency to blanch, his face draining of color. It's not what it looks like. Spare me the cliches, I spat. I'm not an idiot, Zach. The pictures don't lie, even if you clearly do. He ran a hand over his face. Lana, please, just let me. How long? I demanded. How long have you been cheating on me with Erin? He looked away, jaw clenched. The silence stretched between us, taut and suffocating. How long, Zach? I shouted, slamming my hand on the table. 6 months, he said quietly. It's been going on for 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of deceit, of betrayal. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, the wind knocked out of me. My knees buckled and I gripped the table edge for support. I never meant to hurt you, Zach said, taking a step towards me. We never planned this, it just happened. Don't, I choked out, holding up a hand. Don't you dare try to justify this. Tears blurred my vision as the pain overwhelmed me. My husband, my sister, the two people I loved most had ripped my heart to shreds. They destroyed everything I held dear. In that moment, as I drowned in anguish and disbelief, one thought crystallized in my mind with blinding clarity. They would pay for this. Somehow, some way, I would make them suffer as deeply as I did now. This wasn't over. It was only the beginning. I walked into my parents' lavish living room, my heart pounding against my ribcage. Zach and Erin were already there, sitting together on the love seat, their hands intertwined. The sight made my stomach churn. My parents sat across from them, their faces etched with concern. They had no idea the bombshell about to be dropped. Lana, honey, what's this all about? Mom asked, her brow furrowed. Erin said you had something important to discuss with all of us. I laughed bitterly. Oh, I bet she did. Probably couldn't wait to gloat. Erin had the audacity to look confused. Gloat? Lana, what are you talking about? I threw the stack of photos on the coffee table. They fanned out, displaying in lurid detail the extent of Zach and Erin's betrayal. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Dad leaned forward, his face reddening as he flipped through the images. Someone want to explain this? I asked, my voice shaking with barely contained rage. Zach and Erin exchanged a glance, a silent communication passing between them. Then Erin turned to our parents, her eyes wide and tearful. Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry you had to find out this way, she said, her voice trembling. But Zach and I, we're in love. I stared at her, aghast. The sheer nerve, the utter lack of remorse. In love, I repeated incredulously. He's my husband, Erin, your brother-in-law. How could you do this to me? Erin had the gall to look sympathetic. Lana, I never meant to hurt you. But the heart wants what it wants. Surely you can understand that. Understand? I shouted. You're my sister. I trusted you. Zach cleared his throat. Lana, please, let's be adults about this. Erin and I didn't plan this, but we can't deny our feelings. I rounded on him, seething. Shut up, you lying, cheating scumbag. You don't get to lecture me on being an adult. Lana, Language, Mom admonished, finally finding her voice. I know you're upset, but that's no way to speak to your husband. I gaped at her. Are you serious right now? He's been screwing Aaron for months, and you're worried about my language? Dad held up a hand. Enough. This is a lot to take in. He turned to Zach and Aaron, his expression stern. You two have put us in a very difficult position. We never meant to cause any trouble, Aaron said, all wounded innocence. But Zach and I, we want to be together. We were hoping for your blessing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Blessing? You want our parents' blessing to continue your sordid little affair? Mom reached out, placing a hand on my arm. Lana, honey, I know this is painful, but if Zach and Aaron have found love together, maybe it's for the best. These things happen. I yanked my arm away, staring at her in disbelief. Are you actually defending them? Choosing their side? We're not choosing sides, Dad said placatingly. But your mother has a point. If their feelings are genuine, who are we to stand in the way? I looked around the room at the faces of my family and saw nothing but pity and condescension. They actually bought Erin's act, her crocodile tears and pretty lies. I can't believe this, I said, my voice hollow. My own family siding with the people who betrayed me. Erin stood, moving towards me with outstretched arms. Lana, please, let's not fight. We're sisters. We can get through this. I recoiled from her touch. Don't. You're dead to me, both of you. I turned on my heel and stormed out, hot tears stinging my eyes. I heard my mother calling after me, but I didn't stop. Didn't look back. They had made their choice, chosen Zach and Erin's love over my devastation. My own flesh and blood, so easily manipulated by a few well-placed tears and hollow justifications. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. They thought they could just cast me aside, leave me broken and alone while they played happy families. They had no idea what I was capable of. The depths I would sink to make them pay. They wanted to cut me out, make me the villain in their sordid little drama? Fine. I would show them what a real villain looked like. The silence in my apartment was deafening, broken only by the occasional hum of the refrigerator. I sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at the wall, a half-empty bottle of whiskey, my only companion. It had been a week since my world imploded, a week since I'd walked out of my parents' house, disowned and betrayed. They'd made their choice, and it wasn't me. My phone buzzed, jolting me out of my daze. I glanced at the screen, seeing a text from my best friend, Sarah. Lana, I'm so sorry. I just heard about Zach and Aaron. Are you okay? Do you need anything? I let out a humorless laugh. Okay? I was the furthest thing from okay. My husband was screwing my sister, my family had taken their side, and I was utterly alone. I tossed the phone aside, ignoring the message. I couldn't deal with anyone's pity or platitudes right now. A sharp knock at the door made me jump. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a brief, foolish moment, I thought maybe it was Zach, coming to beg for forgiveness. I yanked open the door, ready to unleash my fury, but it wasn't Zach standing there. It was a man in a crisp suit, holding a thick envelope. Lana Owens? He asked, his voice professional and detached. I nodded warily. Yes, that's me. He held out the envelope. You've been served. I took it with numb fingers, my heart sinking as I realized what it was. Divorce papers. Zach was actually filing for divorce. The man turned and left without another word, leaving me standing there, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. I stumbled back inside, ripping open the papers with shaking hands. There it was, in cold, legal terms. Zach was petitioning for a no-fault divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. He wanted to split our assets evenly and move on with his life. With Aaron. Rage boiled up inside me, hot and all-consuming. How dare he? How dare he try to just walk away, like our 10 years together meant nothing? I grabbed my phone, dialing Zach's number with furious jabs. It rang once, twice, twat, before clicking over to voicemail. You coward! I screamed into the phone. You think you can just serve me with divorce papers and wash your hands of me? You think you can just run off with my sister and live happily ever after? I was pacing now, my voice rising with each word. You destroyed our marriage, our life together. You betrayed me in the worst possible way, and now you want to just walk away like it never happened? I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. Well, think again, you bastard. You're not getting rid of me that easily. I won't let you just toss me aside like garbage. I ended the call, throwing the phone onto the couch. My chest heaved with the force of my anger, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. They thought they could just cut me out of their lives, out of the family. They thought they could leave me with nothing while they flaunted their affair, their love. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. I wasn't some weak, pathetic victim who would just roll over and accept their scraps. No, I was Lana Owens, and I was going to make them pay for what they'd done to me. I glanced at the divorce papers, a cold smile curling my lips. They wanted to play dirty? Fine. I could play dirty too. I picked up my phone again, scrolling through my contacts until I found the one I was looking for. A high-powered divorce attorney, known for his ruthless tactics and take-no-prisoners approach. If Zach and Aaron thought they could just waltz off into the sunset, they had another thing coming. I was going to fight them every step of the way, make their lives a living hell. They had no idea the storm that was coming for them. But they would soon enough. I walked into the dingy diner, the bell above the door announcing my arrival. The place was nearly empty, just a few scattered patrons nursing cups of coffee. I slid into a booth in the back, ignoring the sticky tabletop and torn vinyl seats. Places like this were perfect for clandestine meetings, no one paying any attention to the quiet conversations in shadowy corners. I drummed my fingers on the table, impatient. I checked my watch. He was late. Just as I was about to give up and leave, the door jingled again. A man walked in, his face obscured by a baseball cap pulled low. He scanned the room, his gaze landing on me. He slid into the booth across from me, perhaps his movements furtive. "Lana Owens?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded. "That's me, and you are?" He glanced around as if making sure no one was listening. "Call me John. I hear you're in need of some services." I leaned forward, my voice equally quiet. "I need information. On Zach Andrews and Aaron Owens." John raised an eyebrow. "Your husband and sister, right? The ones who screwed you over?" I gritted my teeth at the blunt reminder. "Yes, them. And what kind of information are we talking about here?" I met his gaze, unflinching. "Anything I can use against them. Dirt, secrets, skeletons in their closets. I want to know everything." John sat back, considering. "That kind of intel doesn't come cheap, you know. It'll take time, resources." I pulled an envelope from my purse and slid it across the table. "That's 10 grand. Consider it a down payment." He picked up the envelope, peeking inside. Satisfied, he tucked it into his jacket. "All right, Mrs. Owens, you've got yourself a deal." We shook hands, sealing our agreement. I felt a thrill of anticipation, knowing I was one step closer to my revenge. As I walked out of the diner, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was my divorce attorney, Marcus. "Lana, I've got some news," he said, his voice tinny through the speaker. "Zach's filed a motion to have your assets frozen pending the divorce proceedings." I stopped in my tracks, anger surging through me. "He what?" "He's claiming you're a flight risk, that you'll try to hide money or leave the country." The judge granted the motion. I saw red, my free hand clenching into a fist. "That bastard! He's trying to cut me off, leave me with nothing." Marcus sighed. "I'm afraid so. He's playing hardball, Lana. We need to be smart about this." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to think rationally. Okay, we'll fight this. He's not going to get away with it. I'll do my best, but I have to warn you, it's an uphill battle. Zach has some high-powered attorneys on his side. Of course he did. Probably hired the best that his daddy's money could buy. But I wasn't going to let that stop me. "Do whatever you have to, Marcus. I'm not going down without a fight." I ended the call, my mind racing. Zach thought he could just freeze me out, leave me destitute and helpless. But he had no idea who he was messing with. I scrolled through my contacts, finding the one I needed. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Lana? What's up?" "Claire, I need a favor," I said, my voice tight. "A big one." "Claire, my old college roommate turned successful journalist." Didn't hesitate. "Name it." I took a deep breath. "I need you to dig up everything you can on Zach, his business dealings, his finances, anything that could be used against him." There was a pause. Then, "Lena, are you sure about this? It could get messy." "I'm sure," I said, steel in my voice. "He's trying to ruin me, Claire. I need to fight back with everything I've got." "Okay," she said, her tone resolute. "I'll see what I can find." I said, "But Lana, be careful. Don't let this consume you." I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "It's too late for that, Claire. This is war, and I intend to win, no matter what it takes." I sat at my computer, my fingers flying over the keys as I composed the email. It was a risk, I knew that, but it was a risk I had to take. I'd spent the last week combing through the information John and Claire had dug up on Zach. Bank statements, business records, emails, a paper trail of deceit and corruption. Zach had been embezzling money from his company for years, funneling it into offshore accounts. He'd been making shady deals, bribing officials, cutting corners. all while presenting himself as a pillar of the community, a loving husband and family man. It made me sick, knowing I'd been married to such a fraud, but it also gave me the ammunition I needed to take him down. I attached the incriminating files to the email, my finger hovering over the send button. This would go to the FBI, the IRS, the media, anyone who could expose Zach's crimes and bring him to justice. But I hesitated. As much as I wanted to see Zach pay for what he'd done, I knew this would also destroy my family. My parents, who had taken his side, who had believed his lies, they would be dragged through the mud right along with him. Was I really willing to do that? To burn down everything, even the innocent bystanders, in my quest for vengeance? A knock at the door startled me out of my thoughts. I minimized the email, my heart pounding. Who could it be at this hour? I crept to the door, peering through the peephole. My stomach dropped. It was Erin. I yanked open the door, glaring at her. "What the hell are you doing here?" She pushed past me, inviting herself in. "We need to talk, Lana." I slammed the door shut. "I have nothing to say to you." Erin spun to face me, her expression pleading. "Please, just hear me out. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but this vendetta, this path you're on, it's not going to end well." I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "And you care so much about my well-being, right? The sister who stole my husband, who ruined my life." She flinched but stood her ground. "I'm not going to apologize for falling in love, Lana. I know it hurts, but sometimes these things just happen." I saw red, my hands clenching into fists. "Falling in love? Is that what you call it? Betraying me, lying to me, sneaking around behind my back for months?" Erin had the audacity to look wounded. "It wasn't like that. We never meant to hurt you." "But you did," I screamed, the dam finally breaking. "You destroyed everything. My marriage, my family, my whole damn life." Tears streamed down my face, hot and angry. Erin reached for me, but I slapped her hand away. "Don't you dare touch me," I hissed. "You lost that right the second you climbed into bed with my husband." Erin's face hardened, her eyes flashing. "Fine, you want to wallow in your bitterness and rage? Go ahead. But I'm warning you, Lana. If you go through with this, if you try to take Zach down, you'll only be hurting yourself in the end." I stepped closer, my voice low and deadly. "Is that a threat?" She met my gaze unflinchingly. "It's a promise. Zach has powerful friends, Lana. People who won't take kindly to you dragging his name through the mud. You have no idea what you're up against." I smiled, cold and vicious. "Neither do you, dear sister. Neither do you." I opened the door, gesturing for her to leave. "Get out, and don't ever come back here again." Erin shook her head, her expression almost pitying. "I hope you know what you're doing, Lana. I really do." She walked out, and I slammed the door behind her, sagging against it. My heart raced, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Erin thought she could intimidate me, scare me off with vague threats and warnings. But she underestimated me. They all did. I straightened, squaring my shoulders. I marched back to my computer, pulling up the email. My finger hovered over the mouse, just a single click away from sending Zach's world crashing down around him. Erin wanted to play hardball? Fine. Game on. I hit send, a grim smile stretching across my face. Let the chips fall where they may. I was all in, no matter the cost. I watched the news with a grim sense of satisfaction, the reporter's words washing over me like a twisted lullaby. Zachary Andrews, prominent businessman and philanthropist, was arrested today on charges of embezzlement, fraud, and bribery. FBI agents raided his office and home early this morning, seizing computers and files as evidence. If convicted, Andrews faces up to 20 years in prison. The screen flashed to footage of Zach being led out of his building in handcuffs, his face a mask of shock and rage. Reporters swarmed around him, shouting questions, but he remained silent, his jaw clenched tight. I smiled, sipping my coffee. It had taken months, but I'd finally done it. I'd brought Zach's house of cards crashing down around him. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was my mother. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but some masochistic part of me wanted to hear what she had to say. "Hello?" I answered, my voice cool and detached. "Lana, what have you done?" My mother's voice was shrill, panicked. "The police are here. They're tearing the house apart. They're saying Erin is involved in Zach's crimes, that she's been embezzling from the family business." I leaned back in my chair, a thrill of vicious pleasure running through me. Well, looks like the golden child isn't so perfect after all. This is your doing, isn't it? You're behind all of this. I examined my nails, my tone bored. "I didn't make Erin commit fraud, Mother. She did that all on her own." But you exposed her, exposed all of us. How could you do this to your own family? I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. My family? The same family that turned their backs on me, that chose Zach and Aaron over their own daughter? Spare me the righteous indignation. Lana, please. We can fix this. We can make it right. Just tell the police it was a mistake, that Aaron is innocent. I sat up straight, my voice turning to ice. Innocent? She slept with my husband, Mother. She betrayed me in the worst possible way, and you all took her side. We were wrong, okay? Is that what you want to hear? We were wrong, and we're sorry, but this, what you're doing, it's gone too far. I stood, pacing the room like a caged tiger. No, it hasn't gone far enough. Zach and Aaron deserve to pay for what they did to me, and if that means burning down everything they care about, so be it. Even if it means destroying this family? Destroying your father's legacy? I stopped, staring out the window. Dad's legacy was a lie, Mother, a shiny veneer covering up the rot underneath. Aaron made sure of that. There was a long pause, my mother's ragged breathing echoing down the line. I don't even know who you are anymore, Lana. What happened to my sweet little girl? I closed my eyes, a single tear slipping down my cheek. She died the day her husband and sister ripped her heart out. I'm what's left. I ended the call, tossing the phone aside. I knew I should feel something. Remorse, guilt, regret. But I only felt a grim sense of resolution. Zach and Aaron had built their perfect little world on a foundation of lies and betrayal, and I'd made it my mission to expose those lies, to make them face the consequences of their actions. My phone buzzed again, an incoming text from John. It's done. Zach's assets have been seized, his accounts frozen, Aaron's being questioned by the FBI as we speak. I smiled, a true, genuine smile. It was really happening. My revenge was complete. I knew there would be fallout, repercussions I couldn't even begin to predict. My family would never forgive me, my own reputation would be tarnished by association. But in that moment, as I watched Zach's mugshot flash across the screen, I couldn't bring myself to care. They had destroyed my life, my future. It was only fair that I returned the favor, an eye for an eye, as they say, and I'd made damn sure they paid their debt in full. I walked into the courtroom, my head held high, my designer suit impeccable. It had been 6 months since Zach's arrest, 6 months of watching his world crumble piece by piece, and today it all came to a head. Zach's sentencing hearing, where he would finally face the consequences of his actions. I took my seat in the front row, ignoring the whispers and stares from the packed gallery. I was a pariah now, the vengeful ex-wife who had brought down a pillar of the community. But I didn't care. Let them judge me. They had no idea the hell I'd been through, the betrayal I'd endured. The door at the back of the courtroom opened and Zach was led in, flanked by 2 bailiffs. He looked haggard, defeated, his once tailored suit hanging off his frame. Our eyes met for a brief moment and I saw a flicker of hatred, of fury, but it was quickly replaced by fear as he took his seat at the defendant's table. The judge entered, a stern-faced woman with steel-gray hair. She looked out over the courtroom, her gaze settling on Zach. Zachary Andrews, you have been found guilty of multiple counts of embezzlement, fraud, and bribery. These are serious crimes, ones that undermine the very fabric of our society. Zach's lawyer stood, clearing his throat. Your Honor, my client deeply regrets his actions and takes full responsibility. He has already made restitution to his victims and is committed to turning his life around. The judge raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Then perhaps you can explain why Mr. Andrews continued to engage in illegal activities even after his arrest, attempting to hide assets and intimidate witnesses? Zach's face paled and he sank lower in his seat. I smiled to myself, remembering the anonymous tip I'd sent to the prosecutor's office. Nothing to say, Mr. Andrews? The judge shook her head. Very well. I hereby sentence you to 15 years in federal prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years served. The gavel banged and it was done. Zach was led away in handcuffs, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. I stood, smoothing my skirt. It was over. I'd won. As I walked out of the courtroom, I was met by a sea of reporters, their cameras flashing, their questions overlapping. Mrs. Owens, how does it feel to see your ex-husband brought to justice? Do you have any comment on the rumors that you were behind the anonymous tips that led to his conviction? What about your sister, Erin? Sources say she's been committed to a psychiatric facility after suffering a breakdown. Do you feel responsible for her condition? I held up a hand, silencing the clamor. I looked directly into the cameras, my voice steady and clear. Zach Andrews is a liar and a cheat who destroyed countless lives with his greed and corruption. I take no pleasure in his downfall, but I do feel a sense of justice being served. I paused, letting my words sink in. As for my sister, Erin made her own choices. She chose to betray me, to lie and scheme and manipulate. Her fate is of her own making. I stepped forward, the reporters parting before me like the Red Sea. I know many of you see me as a villain, a woman scorned who went too far in her quest for revenge, but I assure you, everything I did for the sake of truth and justice. I smiled, cold and brittle. Zach and Erin thought they could destroy me, that they could take everything I loved and walk away unscathed. They were wrong. I walked away, my head held high, my heart empty. I had my revenge, my justice. But at what cost? As I climbed into my waiting car, my phone buzzed with an incoming email. It was from my lawyer, with the subject line, Estate of Paul and Diane Owens. I opened it with shaking fingers, scanning the legalese. My parents had changed their will, leaving the entirety of their fortune to me. I leaned back in my seat, a bitter laugh bubbling up in my throat. I had won, in every sense of the word. But as I stared out the window at the passing city, I couldn't help but wonder, was it worth it? Was any of it worth the price I'd paid, the pieces of myself I'd sacrificed on the altar of vengeance? I closed my eyes, a single tear slipping down my cheek. It was too late for such questions now. The die was cast. The game played out to its inevitable end. I was the last one standing, the queen of the ashes, and that would have to be enough. I stood in the foyer of my parents' mansion, the silence pressing in on me from all sides. The once grand house felt empty, lifeless, a mausoleum to a family long since fractured. It had been a month since the reading of the will, a month since I'd become the sole inheritor of the Owens fortune, a month since I'd lost everything that truly mattered. I walked through the echoing halls, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpets. Portraits of my ancestors lined the walls, their painted eyes seeming to follow me, judging me. I entered my father's study, the room where he'd once held court, dispensing wisdom and discipline in equal measure. Now it was mine, the heavy oak desk bearing the weight of my new responsibilities. I sank into the leather chair, staring out the window at the manicured grounds. I had everything I'd ever wanted, wealth, power, status, but it all felt hollow, meaningless. My phone rang, startling me out of my reverie. I glanced at the screen, seeing an unknown number. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but something compelled me to answer. Hello? My voice sounded strange to my own ears, rusty from disuse. Lana. The voice on the other end was achingly familiar, a ghost from my past. It's me. I sat up straight, my heart pounding. Zach, how did you get this number? A humorless chuckle. Prison has a way of teaching you things, Lana, like how to pull strings, call in favors. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. What do you want, Zach? Haven't you done enough damage? A pause, then a sigh. I wanted to hear your voice. To tell you? I'm sorry. I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. Sorry? You're sorry? Do you have any idea what you've done to me, to this family? I know. Believe me, I know. His voice was heavy with regret. I was selfish and stupid, and I let my ego get the best of me. But I never meant to hurt you, Lana. I loved you. Tears pricked at my eyes, but I blinked them back. You had a funny way of showing it. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life paying for my mistakes. But I needed you to know. I never stopped loving you. Even when I was with Erin, even when I was betraying you, it was always you. I closed my eyes, a single tear slipping down my cheek. It's too late, Zach. Too much has happened, too much has been broken. I know, I needed you to hear it. To know that I'm sorry, that I'd give anything to go back and change what I did. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Goodbye, Zach. I hope you find peace wherever you end up. I hung up before he could respond, the phone clattering to the desk. I buried my face in my hands, my shoulders shaking with silent sobs. All of this, all the pain and destruction and betrayal, and for what? A hollow victory, an empty fortune, a shattered family. I stood, wiping my eyes. I walked to the window, staring out at the grounds that were now mine, the price of my vengeance, the spoils of my war. But as I looked out at the sprawling estate, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. I had a chance now. A chance to start over, to rebuild. To take the broken pieces of my life and fashion them into something new, something better. I wouldn't let Zach and Erin's betrayal define me, wouldn't let my quest for revenge consume me. I was more than that, stronger than that. I turned away from the window, squaring my shoulders. I had work to do, a legacy to honor, a future to build. I was Lana Owens, the last of my line, the keeper of my family's destiny, and I would not let them down. Not again. Not ever. I took a deep breath and stepped forward into the unknown, into the rest of my life. It was time to let go of the past, to embrace the future, to find out who I was without the anger, without the pain, to finally truly live.